Today, President Biden will be at the dignified transfer of 3 fallen service members killed in Jordan last weekend. And now all eyes are on the Biden administration to see how it will respond to Iran-backed forces. It's been 6 days since the attack, and he promises a multi-tiered answer. Here to react, Republican Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota. Senator, I want to get to this immigration bill, but first things first. Your thoughts about the 3 soldiers coming home, and my feeling is it makes it so much harder knowing that this was all preventable.
Well, that's the greatest frustration, Brian. Just a week before this, I was visiting the family of a North Dakotan who was injured in an attack in Erbil on Christmas Day by these small drones that are getting through. And now, 165, 170 attacks that have gone, with minor responses. And the thing, I just had breakfast the other morning at the Pentagon with a few of my colleagues and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Brown. And one of the things we said is that the swiftness of the response is part of the projection of strength that we need, and it's already too late to do it swiftly. And the fact that they didn't already have targets in mind in case something like this happened, so that they could respond quickly as well as kinetically and lethally, and in a way that sends a message that would deter our enemy. Right now, our weakness is the very thing that's escalating this war and this battle, rather than the strength, which, as we've seen over the years and decades with Iran, is the only thing that they respond to.
Okay, Hezbollah says they're basically responsible, but promise not to attack anymore. You know what Iran says? I dare you to hit us because we're going to hit you back again. And the Houthi rebels, even though we've hit them multiple times, they had their 46th attack almost blow up one of our destroyers yesterday or 2 days ago. So we need a strategy, and we need a Secretary of Defense that has it together. And the one I saw yesterday doesn't. The other big, go ahead, your comment.
Well, you're exactly right on all fronts, Brian. But one of the things that frustrates me is our Secretary of Defense, who, you're exactly right, has been AWOL for a couple of months and doesn't seem to have a grasp on things, and certainly doesn't communicate them very well if he does, works for our Commander-in-Chief, who's even worse, who's even harder to understand, and who I think is very, very weak, and he projects that weakness way, way too often.
So we're going to get, as early as today, this compromise, this bipartisan border bill that Senator Lankford, Senator Sinema, and Senator Murphy have been working on. I'm just going to throw out a few facts, and I know you're tight with Senator Lankford. We don't know all the details, but here it is. $61 billion for military and Ukraine aid. This is in exchange for $14 million for Israel. And then you get $13 billion for border enforcement. In turn, they're going to reform asylum. You have to stay in your own country unless you can prove that you're under threat. They're going to reform parole system. I don't know what that looks like. There's going to be no amnesty. And instead of 10 years to see cases, it's going to be about 6 months. We don't know what they decided on the $653 million to rebuild the wall that already has money just sitting in an account. They just won't use it for political reasons. What do you know about this?
Well, just everything you just shared are facts that have been out there, that have been reported by the actual people negotiating this. I, like you and everybody else, really am anxious to see the actual text of the bill, because, Brian, in something as complicated as immigration law, every word matters. How one word, sort of references another, how one part of the law references another part of the code. All of these things will determine whether or not the aspirations and the goals and the good intentions of the negotiators are actually reflected in the words themselves. That's why we're anxious to see the text. And then, Brian, what I worry the most about in this is that Chuck Schumer is going to rush to a vote. He's going to rush for cloture. And that will absolutely blow up any confidence people have in the process itself. But I think it's important to see the text first, then read the text, and then start picking it apart and judging it. And with regard to the Ukraine funding, by the way, this is almost as controversial as the border funding. I think we ought to strip everything that's not related directly to fighting the war and beating back Vladimir Putin and diminishing his military more. I think the humanitarian aid and the other things need to be supported by the neighborhood in Europe, and we need to help Ukrainians do a very noble thing, and that is beat back Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, Senator, you're 100% right. Just help them fight. That's all they want.
Right.
The other stuff they can work out. By the way, the EU did approve some funds yesterday. They got by Hungary.
They did.
The other thing to keep in mind, too, for those who say the Ukrainians can't prevail, didn't they say that about the Mujahideen in Afghanistan? And didn't the Soviet Union basically leave in humiliation?
Well, look at what's already happening. Most people thought that Ukraine would lose within the first few days, which is why this weak president of ours was so slow to roll out the assistance that he finally did roll out. They maybe could have ended this war in, early in the first year if they'd have had all of the things they needed right away, rather than the way we're rolling them out and dribbling them out. And we're still haven't given them the F-16s to finally have some air dominance
or any air.
Or any air.
Any discretion the president has gets every Republican worried because he doesn't, no one trusts his judgment. He's shown that to us pretty consistently over the last 3.5 years.
He sure has.
Thanks so much, Senator. I look forward to your result because you're open to reading the bill. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.